couple of weeks for your favorite football franchise, including from the external reaction standpoint. But I gotta tell you, and I am no exception here, almost all of that focus has gone onto two individuals, and there's a third who's been left completely out. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. First came Mike Tomlin. That's natural. That's human nature. He's been associated with all of this for way too long. He's the most visible, the most vocal, and the most common denominator. After that, it was Art Rooney. Why? Well, mostly because Rooney didn't make a change at head coach. And from there, he had a press conference this week that in most people's estimation didn't go anywhere near far enough in really just expressing himself, expressing frustration, saying that you're disappointed isn't the same, isn't close to the same. Meanwhile, Omar Khan, who's, you can call him new because he's new to the general manager post. He's certainly not new to the Steelers world or to the various discussions that they have and that they've had in the recent past and, of course, preceding his promotion. But I'll tell you what, at the very least, 2024 will have been the year in which the sheen really wore off with Khan. Because I don't think you're going to see any more these glowing reviews about how much more advanced he is than everybody else and how he's working this situation or working that situation. Yeah, he had some good free agent signings. I'll take Deshaun Smith all day long. I'll take Patrick Queen, actually. I know that was kind of a mixed thing for a lot of people. I'm a believer in him. The Deontay Johnson trade was, by every reckoning, a good one. He brought in a player, Dante Jackson, who ended up being his starting right corner and coming up with 5 interceptions. And Deontay, went and did his thing with 4 different teams. He also had what appears to be, and you never know this so early on, a decent draft. That'll ultimately be determined by Troy Fautanu, but there were already some benefits, and Fautanu showed well in his very early going. But here's what Omar didn't do. He never addressed the team's main shortcoming, obvious, glaring neon signs atop Mount Washington shortcoming. And that was the wide receiver room. And I'm tired of just referring to it as WR2 because to me that grossly underestimates how much that room hurt the team. You knew, if you're the general manager of this team, that George Pickens was going to be a problem, no matter how spectacular his athleticism. In one form or another, his immaturity was going to be a problem. Guess what? It was. Multiple times, and significantly so. So you didn't just need someone else to be next on the depth chart. You needed someone to challenge him for that status. That's a point that I was making way back when we were all pining for Brandon Ayuk. Was if you brought someone else like that in to make George feel like, maybe I'm not, the big guy around here anymore. You could have a little bit of a similar effect to what Juju Smith-Schuster had in arriving late in Antonio Brown's time. And AB was still a loon and everything, but AB continued to perform at an extraordinarily high level, in part, this isn't exactly a secret, because he hated all the attention and the love Juju was getting. Never addressed by the general manager. The rest of the room, Calvin Austin was going to come with question marks. He came with question marks. He addressed some of them. He didn't address all of them. But you knew that too. You knew that Cal slotted in as a 3 or a 4. Nobody was going to surprise anybody with that happening. So if the rest of this room, the various Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, and those types of acquisitions, let's say that those were influenced, as I believe certainly Jefferson was, by Arthur Smith. Okay, it's one thing to listen to your people, to respect your coordinator, and to say, it's important to him that he has the material that he can trust and can work with. It's also important to just be the general manager and to say, listen, Art, I love you, man, but I'm not bringing this guy in when I still need to get myself a 1 or a 1A or even a 2. Sorry, Art, can't do it. So finally, the season goes along and Mike Williams is added. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to find out what really transpired between Williams' arrival, his dramatic winning touchdown catch in Landover, and then that whole long period after that where he just wasn't utilized. When all he did, and the numbers will back me up on this, when the ball was thrown his way, it was to catch passes. Was there some kind of disconnect between the GM, the coordinator? Did the head coach not like something? Whatever it was, the GM did not have his way with that acquisition. When a GM who asserts himself makes a move like that, even if it's just for a 5th round pick, and it's clearly aimed at the short term, and then George gets hurt, and you need somebody in this role, and they still don't use your guy, then your GM either didn't speak up or he has no voice. And all of that is a concern moving forward almost as much as the other 2 guys we've all been going at. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Today's J1Q comes from Michael, who says, DK, I wish I could agree with you on Keanu Benton, but I see him being single-blocked and manhandled often. He doesn't offer much in the pass rush when he's in the old Stephon Tuitt position. So it's not a matter of trying to rush as a nose guard. I just think he's an average player and another high-round disappointment. For anybody who doesn't know what Michael's referring to, it means you missed yesterday's show, which was all about Keanu and my stance that he's being not just underutilized, but that he's being incorrectly utilized in an old school nose tackle role, as opposed to the way Tuitt flourished. Now, I should have made clear I was not comparing Benton to Tuitt. I think Tuitt was a special player. I think if Steph was still playing in the league, he'd still be a special player. That was an incredible draft pick by the Steelers out of Notre Dame. And man, they could use a few more like that. The best thing that I can offer back to you, Michael, in terms of a counter without repeating the stuff from yesterday's show about how I feel about Benton's skill set, about Benton's potential, and about what Benton does now that goes largely underappreciated, I feel, by the fan base, is that, I mean, his teammates swear by him. His teammates see things that we can't see. And I'm always going to be somebody who respects that. I will listen to what they have to say on something like this even more than I will regarding their coaches, because to an extent, their coaches have to engage in some self-preservation. If you're a positional coach, you're not going to be in the business of saying, yeah, hey, so-and-so is really not getting it done, or portraying that player in any light in which it might sound like they're not getting better, because guess whose job it is to make them better? Right. But when someone like Patrick Queen says to me that it's just a privilege to play behind a guy like that, and then we will sit there and he'll give really, really precise examples of things that I should be looking for. I'm going to value that. when I'll mention Benton to someone like Cam Hayward, and the singular response is to just raise his eyebrows like, wow, they're not going to do that because they're being nice. They're not going to do that because they're just trying to be good teammates. And I got to be honest with you, man, the last time that something like this happened, where everyone on the team was just glowing about a guy that no one really said much about, was Javon Hargrave until he was gone. Now, I'll give some credit after the fact to Kevin Colbert and his guys, because they did go after Hargrave in free agency. They did try to keep him. And my understanding was that their offer was very, very competitive with what the Eagles ended up giving him on that contract. That was the 3 years, $39 million. That's the going rate. That's what you need to pay. And the Steelers needed to be a lot quicker on that in signing Hargrave. They didn't need to let him go to the open market because they knew, just like these guys know. And it's the same position and a lot of the same discussion and debate points within that. I think a lot of Benton, and I hope that you and I, Michael, can respectfully disagree on this single point. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. And we'll be back with another one tomorrow.